Hey, what's up guys, it's BenBonk, and recently we hit 2,000 subscribers, and I can't thank you guys enough for all the support we're getting recently. So as a thank you, I decided I was going to make a game with a bunch of your guys' ideas, so here's how that went. So the first thing I did is I set up a Discord channel where I let you guys vote on your favorite ideas, and you could upload new ideas which you wanted to do, and you could vote using reactions, and eventually after around a day of voting, the 5 selected game ideas were chosen. These 5 ideas kind of started to turn into 7 ideas because a lot of the voting was really close and it's hard to tell which votes actually won, so I ended up doing 7 ideas, and those ideas were: first thing I couldn't do with the most votes was not a green color palette, so unfortunately I cannot use a green color palette for this challenge. The next suggestion was the goal is to kill yourself, so kind of had some ideas that sprung from that, and I think it's a pretty interesting concept for a game. The next one was the speed of the game is tied to your ammo count. The less ammo you have left, the faster the game. And honestly, it sounds like a really cool mechanic, and it's just, I was totally lost at the beginning on where to go with this, but it's also a really cool idea for a mechanic. The next idea was that I had to make NPCs or enemies out of every single Discord member. So this is an extremely hard thing to implement. Not too hard, but it was just quite a pain to implement, but yeah, I ended up doing it in the end, as you'll see later in the video. Next thing was the longer you wait, the harder it gets, which gave me some more ideas. Another thing was something I'm sure you've never heard before, definitely cannot think of anything. Drinking milk heals you, which is another really idea. I mean, I feel like I've heard that somewhere, I can't think of anything, but yeah. And the final idea was the watermelon sandwich is the player, which is very strange but also very interesting. So just hearing these ideas, you're probably expecting me to make another shooter kind of game, but honestly, I've been making so many kind of shooter games and high score based games that honestly this time I just want to take a break, kind of work on my level design skills. So I kind of decided that I was going to start working on a different sort of game, and I was going to have an idea where a mechanic where you could fling this watermelon sandwich out, and like your goal is to get in this guy's mouth and it kind of like kills yourself, I guess, and then have the enemies be the milk because the milk will heal you. And then yeah, it was a pretty wacky idea, but you'll probably see how it goes later on. Pretty much the thing I want to say is I definitely probably could have made a better or more interesting shooter kind of game, but just for the type of this game, I just want to take a break from making all these kind of shooter games and pixel art games, and I also ended up doing a more simplistic art style for this game. So the first thing I started working on was the player movement script, and I tried to make this mechanic where pretty much whenever you click and the farther away your mouse is from the player, the farther it will launch him. So if you click really far away from him, it'll give him a super big boost of speed, but then if you click super close to him, it'll just be a light tap. And after a few hours, I had a really basic movement script where pretty much I could click around the map and my player would launch different amounts of speed depending on how far away you click from him, which I think is a pretty cool mechanic. The next thing I started working on was just a simple level loader and scene transition. I use the same kind of mechanic in pretty much all of my games, and so I just got that setting up, and so whenever I die or just want to trigger something, I can restart the level and I'll make this nice transition. The next thing I wanted to do was make sure I actually implement the theme of that the game speed is tied to your ammo count. I could have done this with a lot of more creative ways, but in this way I pretty much made it so every single time you click, you'll increment your kind of force, and which will make your clicks even stronger every single time you click, which you can see in the top left. I started working on that system. So the more I click, the more actual force I'll get. It's barely noticeable, but I guess it's just a slight and actually goes to the theme. And the next thing I started working on was I wanted to make sure my player couldn't just infinitely click. So I added some challenge to the game, where instead of having his ammo be like bullets, I made his ammo be like his amount of flaps, or times that he can flap. Make it into a kind of challenge game where you gotta shoot him in like this right place with a limited number of flaps. I also made a quick enemy system, so whenever you bump into this enemy, it will restart the level. And as you can see, after a few hours of work, with every single flap, my flap force will increase, and I will only have a limited number of flaps. And once I run out of those flaps, I cannot flap anymore. So since I already pretty much had a great foundation for the game, I wanted to take a break from all the programming as I started working on some art for the game. And originally, I usually pretty much always do pixel art for my games, but I wanted to try something new just for this game, because I went for a more simplistic, more modern art style, I guess you could say. So I worked on making this watermelon sandwich, which will be the main character for the game, and I also worked on a milk can, which will actually be the enemy. So I had this idea that the milk can will like kind of heal you and turn you into a meat sandwich, and Harry's not that hungry. And that's a really wacky idea, but yeah, I started making the sandwich and the milk. And I also made art for this guy named Harry, which is going to be your goal and what you're trying to get inside of his mouth to progress on to the next level. With all of this art done, I started importing a bunch of it into Unity. I started setting up my character, updating the UI, and all that kind of stuff. After I had all that kind of stuff set up, I started working on the background for the game, and I actually started going for a green and blue look for the background. I know I wasn't supposed to use a green color palette, but I'm just counting it okay, because even though this color palette does have some green in it, I don't think it's only green, so I think it's fine, honestly. But it just looked the best out of all the other colors. I tried going for a bunch of different colors as the background color, but honestly green and blue just looked the best, and so I stuck with that. After I had all the art in, I think the game was looking much better, but there's still a major issue, because I had my player where it could rotate towards the mouse. As you can see here, pretty much I could rotate and just, kind of move when I'm not supposed to move. So I set up another system where I made it so I couldn't move or rotate while I'm on the ground. After that, I started working on some core gameplay and level design. I also started working on this sprite, which would be the meat sandwich. And I know it sounds extremely weird. I thought that's kind of what I was going for, but I pretty much had this idea: whenever you drink the milk, which is going to be the enemy, you turn into a meat sandwich. And kind of like the lore or whatever is that Harry is not too hungry, and so he doesn't want a meat sandwich. So by drinking the milk, make him not hungry, and he just doesn't want the meat sandwich. So yeah, I thought that was kind of funny. I then worked on some player feedback, and I worked on this milk animation, so when you actually bump into the milk, it turns you into a meat sandwich, and it plays a particle system, and also shows Harry just backing out because he does not want the meat sandwich. And I also made, whenever you reach Harry, or actually get inside of his mouth, it plays a particle system so you can tell that he's actually eating the sandwich. By now, I pretty much had a game, but I didn't have any levels to go along with it. So I started working and designing on a ton of levels. I ended up making, about 10 levels just straight in a row. I ended up scrapping some of them, but yeah, I made a bunch of levels. And eventually, after I made about 6 levels, I noticed that my game was getting a little stale and repetitive. So I did end up adding a new mechanic where I made a pink wall. If you actually run into the pink wall, you will bounce off the pink wall, and so I think it adds for some more skill expression and, difficulty to the game. After a few days of just making levels, I got kind of tired of it, and so I started working on this little home screen or title screen, and it just has this start button, and yeah. I wanted to make sure it was clear why Harry wanted a watermelon sandwich, so I had made some cutscene kind of backstory talking about Harry's not too hungry and he just wants a light snack, and so eventually he thought of eating a watermelon sandwich, but how he'd hate to eat a meat sandwich. And I also made a tutorial. As you can see, it just basically is a really quick tutorial and teaches you how to play the game. It's just really basic, but I think it's okay. Then I started working on something that I was absolutely dreading the most, and it was NPCs or enemies out of every Discord member. And I just put this back so far because I knew it was going to be extremely hard, and pretty much it would have been so much harder, but thankfully I got my programming friend Luke or Lulk, I don't know how you say it really, but I got him to make me a kind of notepad file where he pretty much got all the members in my Discord and just put them in a notepad text, which made it so much easier just to copy and paste the things. I know if I was really, some really good programming genius like Danny or someone, I could have just made some bot or some script that would set up all the names automatically, but I'm really not that much as a programming genius or whatever. So I had to do everything pretty much manually, but it made it so much easier that I could just copy and paste these names. And so I'm sorry if your name is not in the game. I pretty much got all of the names from the script. It was about a few days after I announced the special, so if you don't see your game or your name in the game, I'm sorry. It's pretty much probably just because we got all the names just right after I announced the thing. So if you didn't see your name, that's probably why. I guess it's a reward for people who joined the server earlier. So yeah, and eventually I spent hours and hours just adding this in. Sorry I don't have too much footage of it, but eventually I got all the names in the game, and you can see everyone's name as a milk. Another thing my game really needed was some audio, so I called upon someone in my Discord server who was a composer named Jonathan Hildebrand, and I asked him if he could make a song for me, and he did make this super cool song. I only gave him like 2 days to make it, and so given the time frame, I think he did an excellent job. I think it fits the kind of wacky game theme and feel super well. So massive shout for him for making this track completely for free. I'll leave links for his socials and stuff in the description below, and yeah, he did a great job and I can't thank him enough. So I hope you guys liked that song, because I know I did. So I imported that into Unity, and I used an audio manager script that I've used in many other games, and I also made some other sound effects just for like when you shoot the sandwich, and just pretty much basic sound effects, and I got those all up and running in Unity. And I also made a bunch of other small polished things, just like some slight post-processing effects, and just like an end screen, just another effect where it's like when you are not moving, you have no flaps left, it'll just auto restart, just small game loop stuff like that. And after a few more tweaks to the gameplay, I pretty much wrapped up the game and exported it to WebGL, and I uploaded it to itch. And so yeah, if you guys want to play the game, it's on itch right now. It'll be the first link in the description below. And I can't thank you guys enough for 2,000 subscribers. And this game, it was pretty interesting to make. The gameplay is definitely kind of questionable, and it might be kind of difficult at times, kind of rage-inducing. But yeah, I hope you guys did like this video. This game was a pretty cool. I mean, it's definitely something. I tried something new, worked on my level design skills, worked on my simplistic art skills. I think it was a good experience overall. And so if you guys did like this video, please let me know in the comments or like below. The next video will probably be a new game jam announcement, because I'm actually announcing a game jam. I'll be hosting about 2 weeks from this video, and also make sure to do the Slime Keep devlogs, which will probably be in a week from now. But yeah, if you guys did like this video, thanks for watching, and bye.